This video is a conceptual overview of the information in development triangles. Here are 4 triangles that were generated by a simulation. I made them very simple. Every accident year is the same. The paid loss and outstanding loss amounts on the top, and the paid count and outstanding accounts on the bottom. Anyway, we're going to focus for the time being just on the paid loss triangle. Notice that we've got 6 accident years, 2020 to 2025, and this is what the triangle looks like on December 31st, 2025. Now, in this first segment of the video, we are going to rewind time back to December 31st, 2020, and advance all accident years by 1 calendar year at a time. The purpose is to see how triangles evolve over time. So, here we are back at December 31st, 2020. There's only one data point in the triangle in the top left corner. Let's advance by 1 year and see what happens. Aha! Accident year 2020 got a second data point, and accident year 2021 got its first data point. Let's advance by another year. Okay, so we get another diagonal along this red line. 2020 got a third point, 2021 got a second point, and 2022 got its first point. So you can probably guess what's going to happen if we continue advancing. Get another diagonal, and another, and another. All right, now let's rewind time and look at that once more. So here we are back at December 31st, 2020. And advancing a year at a time, that's what you get. So the thing to understand here is that each year the triangle gets a new diagonal, or another way to say that is that each row gets a new data point. In the second segment of this video, we're again going to go back to December 31st, 2020, but we're only going to advance accident year 2020. The purpose here is to calculate the incremental paid amounts for accident year 2020 only. So here we are back at December 31st, 2020. This 720 represents the amount paid by the insurer to all claimants in the 12-month period ending December 31st, 2020. The incremental amount is the current value of 720 minus the prior value, which is 0 here because there is no prior value, and the result is 720. Note that for the first development period, the incremental amount is the same as the cumulative amount. Let's advance by 1 year, and we should get another data point right there. Yep, okay. Now we're at December 31st, 2021. The incremental paid amount is the current cumulative amount, 1,800, minus the prior cumulative amount, 720, and that equals 1080. This is all pretty simple when it's broken down like this, so we're going to cycle pretty quickly through the next few years. Just watch as each year adds a new data point. Now, notice that these data points on the top row are cumulative paid amounts. Cumulative paid loss or cumulative paid claim, same thing. But if the label just says paid loss, you can generally assume it's a cumulative triangle. In the next segment of the video, we're going to wind back time again, but this time calculate calendar year paid amounts for each calendar year across all accident years. This is definitely a calculation that you need to be able to do in your sleep. So for this calculation, we take the current diagonal, which I marked in red, minus the prior diagonal, which, well, I would have marked it in brown, but there is no prior diagonal for this first year. So the result is 720 minus 0, which is 720. So that's the calendar year paid amount for the year 2020. Okay. So let's advance by 1 year. Now, this is going to make more sense because we actually have a prior diagonal. So the calendar year during the calendar year paid loss during 2021 is this red diagonal minus this brown diagonal. So 2520, that's the sum of 720 and 1800, minus the 720 is 1800. And you just follow the same pattern for the next year. The sum of the values on the red diagonal minus the sum of the values on the brown diagonal. Do the calculation over here. You get 2880. Okay, and so on, and so on. And last one. Now, if you want to, you can go back and pause the video just to double check those calculations. Summing along a diagonal is an awkward calculation in Excel because there's no built-in Excel function for that. In the next very short section, I'm going to show you a little trick, however. And this involves putting the triangle into a slightly different format. Okay. Now, this is the way actuaries normally format triangles. But what we're going to do is shift every row all the way over to the right. So this column is going to have all the green values. So like that. So we've shifted everything over to the right. Now, the difference between successive diagonals in this triangle is the same thing as the difference between columns in the alternate format triangle. And it's obviously a lot easier to take the sum of a column than the sum along a diagonal. And the calendar year paid then is just the difference between these points here. So 720 is 720 minus 0. 1800 is the 2520 minus 720, and so on. So that's just a useful little trick. The other reason I wanted to point this out is that if you're in the United States, this on the right is how triangles are formatted in the annual statement in Schedule P, but that's something that's not covered until Exam 6. So I think that gives you a conceptual idea of what development triangles are all about. There are a couple of supplementary exercises that you can download in the wiki.